Welcome to Wisdom Audiobooks. Have you ever wondered how small changes can lead to extraordinary transformations in your life? Imagine this. What if I told you that the key to achieving your biggest dreams lies not in massive, overwhelming actions but in tiny, consistent habits? This audiobook is here to show you the power of atomic habits. Those small, incremental changes that compound over time to create a profound impact. Introduction. The audiobook Small Changes, Big Impact. The Power of Atomic Habits is written and published by Wisdom Audiobooks. This is more than just an audiobook. It's a guide to transforming your life through the science of habit formation. I know many of you are struggling. Some of you feel stuck, overwhelmed by the sheer size of your goals. Others are caught in the cycle of starting and stopping, unable to maintain consistency. And then there are those who simply don't have the time to read books or dive deep into self-improvement, but still yearn for growth. Let me share something personal with you. A few years ago, I was exactly where many of you might be right now. I wanted to change my life, but every time I tried, I failed. It wasn't until I discovered the concept of atomic habits that everything clicked. Tiny changes, when done consistently, became the foundation of my success. This audiobook is designed to help you overcome the same struggles. Whether you're a busy professional, a student juggling studies and life, or someone who feels lost in their journey, this content will resonate deeply with you. We'll explore the science behind habits, provide actionable strategies, and inspire you with real-life examples. By the end of this audiobook, you'll have a clear roadmap to building habits that stick and breaking free from the ones that hold you back. So stay with me. Listen carefully, because the wisdom you gain here could very well change your life. As Mahatma Gandhi once said, "The future depends on what you do today." Let's make today count. Your wisdom journey starts here. Chapter 1: Understanding Habits, the Foundation of Change. In this first chapter, we're going to dive deep into the foundation of all personal transformation, understanding habits. Habits are the invisible forces that shape our lives, often without us even realizing it. They are the routines and behaviors we repeat daily, which, over time, define who we are and where we end up. As Aristotle once said, "We are what we repeatedly do." Excellence, then, is not an act but a habit. Today, you'll discover how habits work, why they matter, and how small changes can lead to monumental results. By the end of this chapter, you'll have a clear understanding of the science behind habits and how to harness their power for your benefit. Let's begin. 1. The concept of habits. What are they, and why do they matter? Habits are automatic behaviors that we perform without much conscious thought. Think about brushing your teeth in the morning, tying your shoes, or scrolling through social media. These actions feel effortless because they've become ingrained in your daily routine. But here's the fascinating part. Habits don't just happen by accident. They are formed through repetition and reinforced by rewards. Every habit follows a predictable cycle known as the habit loop, which we'll explore in detail shortly. Why do habits matter? Because they are the building blocks of success, or failure. Research shows that 40 to 45% of our daily actions are driven by habits, not conscious decisions. This means that if you want to change your life, you need to focus on changing your habits. Consider this analogy. Imagine your life as a garden. Your habits are the seeds you plant every day. If you plant seeds of discipline, consistency, and positivity, you'll eventually harvest a bountiful garden of success. But if you plant seeds of procrastination, negativity, or laziness, you'll end up with weeds choking your potential. The good news is that habits are malleable. You can rewire them to serve your goals. As Charles Duhigg, author of The Power of Habit, explains, habits aren't destiny. They can be ignored, changed, or replaced. 2. The habit loop, the science behind how habits form. To truly understand habits, we need to break down the process that creates them. This brings us to the habit loop, a concept popularized by Charles Duhigg. The habit loop consists of 4 key components: cue, craving, response, and reward. Let's explore each one. Cue, the trigger. The cue is the trigger that tells your brain to initiate a habit. It could be a specific time of day, a location, an emotional state, or even the presence of certain people. For example, if you always feel hungry at noon, the clock hitting 12 p.m. becomes the cue to eat lunch. Craving, the motivation. Cravings are the driving force behind habits. They represent the desire or motivation to achieve the reward. For instance, when you see a notification pop up on your phone, the craving isn't the notification itself, it's the anticipation of what's behind it, a message, a like, or some form of validation. Response, the action. The response is the actual behavior or action you take in response to the cue and craving. If the craving is strong enough and the action is easy to perform, you're more likely to act on it. For example, if you crave entertainment and your phone is within reach, you might scroll through social media. Reward, the satisfaction. Finally, the reward is the outcome that satisfies your craving and reinforces the habit loop. Rewards teach your brain whether a particular behavior is worth repeating. For instance, if scrolling through social media gives you a dopamine hit, your brain will associate that behavior with pleasure and make it more likely to repeat in the future. Understanding the habit loop is crucial because it allows you to identify the triggers and rewards that drive your habits. Once you know these elements, you can start tweaking them to build better habits or break bad ones. 3. The power of 1% improvements. Small changes, big impact. Now that we've explored the mechanics of habits, let's talk about their compounding effect. One of the most powerful concepts in habit formation is the idea of 1% improvements. Imagine this: if you improve just 1% every day, by the end of the year, you'll be 37 times better than when you started. On the flip side, if you decline by 1% daily, you'll practically lose everything you had. This principle is beautifully summarized by James Clear in Atomic Habits. Success is the product of daily habits, not once-in-a-lifetime transformations. Here's a real-life example to illustrate this point. Meet Sarah, a young professional who wanted to run a marathon. At first, she struggled to even jog for 5 minutes. But instead of setting an overwhelming goal like running 20 miles a day, she started small. She committed to running just 1 mile per day. Over time, she gradually increased her distance. 2 years later, not only did she complete her first marathon, but she also developed a lifelong love for running. Sarah's story teaches us that progress doesn't happen overnight. It's the result of consistent, incremental effort. As Lao Tzu wisely said, "A journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step." So ask yourself, what's one small thing you can improve today? Maybe it's drinking more water, meditating for 2 minutes, or reading 1 page of a book. These tiny actions may seem insignificant now, but over time, they compound into extraordinary results. 4. The story of Michael Phelps, a real-life example of atomic habits. Let me share a short, inspiring story to reinforce the power of habits. Michael Phelps, the most decorated Olympian of all time, didn't become a swimming legend by accident. His coach, Bob Bowman, understood the importance of building tiny, consistent habits. From a young age, Phelps was taught to follow a strict routine: wake up early, stretch, practice visualization techniques, and swim countless laps. One of Phelps' most famous habits was his pre-race ritual. Before every competition, he would listen to music, visualize his race, and perform a series of stretches. These rituals became so ingrained in him that they helped him stay calm and focused under pressure. Phelps' success wasn't due to one massive effort. It was the result of thousands of small, deliberate actions performed consistently over decades. As he once said, "There will be obstacles. There will be doubters. There will be mistakes. But with hard work, there are no limits." This story highlights the importance of focusing on the process rather than the outcome. When you commit to small, positive habits, the results will naturally follow. 5. Why understanding habits is the first step to transformation. Before you can change your habits, you must first understand them. Many people fail to stick to their resolutions because they try to tackle the symptoms without addressing the root cause. For example, someone might want to lose weight but focus solely on dieting without examining the habits that led to weight gain in the first place. Understanding the habit loop empowers you to take control. Instead of fighting against your impulses, you can design your environment to support your goals. For instance, if you want to read more books, place a book on your bedside table instead of your phone. If you want to exercise regularly, lay out your workout clothes the night before. Remember, habits are like water, they flow in the path of least resistance. By making good habits easier and bad habits harder, you can redirect the flow towards success. In the next chapter, we'll dive deeper into actionable strategies for building good habits using the 4 laws of behavior change. You'll learn practical techniques to make habits obvious, attractive, easy, and satisfying. Chapter 2: Building Good Habits, the 4 Laws of Behavior Change. In the previous chapter, we explored the science behind habits and learned how small changes can lead to extraordinary results. Now, it's time to roll up our sleeves and dive into actionable strategies for building good habits. In this chapter, we'll focus on the 4 laws of behavior change, a framework developed by James Clear in Atomic Habits. These laws are simple yet powerful principles that will help you design habits that stick. Each law corresponds to a step in the habit loop we discussed earlier: cue, craving, response, and reward. Together, they form a comprehensive system for creating positive behaviors and eliminating negative ones. Let's get started. 1. Law 1: Make it obvious, the power of awareness. The first step to building a habit is making the cue obvious. If you want to adopt a new behavior, you need to be aware of the triggers that prompt it. Unfortunately, most people try to change their habits without first understanding what cues drive them. Here's the truth: you can't change what you don't notice. To make habits obvious, start by identifying your current triggers. Ask yourself, what time of day do I usually perform this action? Where am I when it happens? Who am I with? Once you've identified the cues, you can use a technique called implementation intentions to make your habits more intentional. An implementation intention is a simple statement that links your desired behavior to a specific time and place. For example, I will meditate for 5 minutes at 7 a.m. in my living room. I will write 1 paragraph at 8:30 p.m. at my desk. This approach works because it removes ambiguity. Instead of relying on vague goals like, I'll exercise more, you create a clear plan that leaves no room for excuses. Another powerful tool is habit stacking, which involves pairing a new habit with an existing one. For instance, after brushing your teeth, existing habit, you'll spend 2 minutes journaling, new habit. After finishing dinner, existing habit, you'll take a 10-minute walk, new habit. By stacking habits, you leverage the momentum of your current routines to build new ones. As Aristotle said, we are what we repeatedly do. Excellence, then, is not an act but a habit. Making habits obvious is the first step toward excellence. 2. Law 2: Make it attractive, the role of motivation. The second law focuses on making habits attractive. Why? Because we're wired to pursue behaviors that feel rewarding or pleasurable. If a habit doesn't appeal to us, we're unlikely to stick with it. One effective way to make habits attractive is through temptation bundling. This technique pairs something you want to do with something you need to do. For example, only listen to your favorite podcast while jogging. Watch your favorite TV show while folding laundry. By combining a habit you enjoy with one you find challenging, you increase your motivation to follow through. Another strategy is to surround yourself with people who embody the habits you want to adopt. Humans are social creatures, and we tend to mimic the behaviors of those around us. As Jim Rohn famously said, you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. If you want to build healthier habits, spend time with people who prioritize health. If you want to read more, join a book club. Finally, reframe the way you think about your habits. Instead of focusing on what you're giving up, highlight the benefits. For example, instead of thinking, I have to wake up early, remind yourself, waking up early gives me quiet time to focus on my goals. By shifting your mindset, you can make even the toughest habits feel appealing. 3. Law 3: Make it easy, the importance of simplicity. The third law emphasizes simplicity. Many people fail to build habits because they make them too difficult to start. The key is to reduce friction and make the behavior as easy as possible. Start with the 2-minute rule. When beginning a new habit, scale it down to something that takes less than 2 minutes to complete. For example, instead of go for a 30-minute run, start with put on my running shoes. Instead of read a chapter of a book, start with read 1 page. Why does this work? Because the hardest part of any habit is getting started. Once you begin, momentum often carries you forward. As James Clear explains, a habit must be established before it can be improved. Focus on consistency first, quality will come later. Another way to make habits easier is by designing your environment to support them. For instance, keep healthy snacks visible and junk food out of sight. Place your guitar in the center of your living room if you want to practice daily. When good habits are convenient and bad habits are inconvenient, you naturally gravitate toward the right choices. Remember, habits are like water, they flow in the path of least resistance. 4. Law 4. Make it satisfying, the role of rewards. The final law is all about creating immediate satisfaction. Our brains are wired to prioritize short-term rewards over long-term benefits. That's why habits like scrolling through social media are so addictive. They provide instant gratification. To make good habits satisfying, you need to reward yourself immediately after completing them. Here are some ideas. Track your progress in a habit tracker and celebrate each small win. Treat yourself to something you enjoy after completing a workout. Tracking your habits is particularly powerful because it provides visual proof of your progress. Imagine marking in X on a calendar every day you meditate. Over time, seeing a streak of consecutive days becomes its own reward. As Jerry Seinfeld once said, "Don't break the chain." However, be cautious with rewards. They should reinforce the habit, not undermine it. For example, rewarding yourself with junk food after a workout defeats the purpose. Instead, choose rewards that align with your goals, such as buying a new book or taking a relaxing bath. 5. A real-life example, the story of Thomas Edison. Let's pause for a moment and reflect on the life of Thomas Edison, one of history's greatest inventors. Edison held over 1,000 patents, but his success wasn't due to innate genius. It was the result of consistent, disciplined habits. Edison followed a strict daily routine that included waking up early, working in focused bursts, and taking regular breaks. He also kept detailed notebooks where he recorded his experiments and ideas. By making his creative process habitual, Edison was able to produce groundbreaking inventions like the light bulb and phonograph. What made Edison's habits sustainable? He applied the 4 laws of behavior change. Make it obvious. He set aside dedicated hours for experimentation. Make it attractive. He viewed his work as a thrilling adventure. Make it easy. He broke complex problems into manageable steps. Make it satisfying. He celebrated every small breakthrough, no matter how minor. Edison's story reminds us that genius is not a gift, it's a habit. As he famously said, "Genius is 1% inspiration and 99% perspiration." 6. Practical tips for applying the 4 laws. Now that you understand the 4 laws of behavior change, here are some practical tips to apply them in your life. 1. Start small. Don't overwhelm yourself with massive goals. Focus on tiny, manageable actions. 2. Track your progress. Use a journal, app, or calendar to monitor your habits. Seeing your streaks grow will motivate you to continue. 3. Celebrate wins. Reward yourself for sticking to your habits, no matter how small. Positive reinforcement strengthens neural pathways. 4. Be patient. Building habits takes time. Trust the process and stay consistent. Chapter 3. Eliminating bad habits. Reversing the 4 laws of behavior change. So far, we've explored the science of habits and learned how to build good ones using the 4 laws of behavior change. But what about the habits that hold us back? The procrastination, the overeating, the endless scrolling on social media. How do we break free from these behaviors that sabotage our progress? In this chapter, we'll focus on eliminating bad habits by reversing the 4 laws of behavior change. Instead of making habits obvious, attractive, easy, and satisfying, we'll make them invisible, unattractive, difficult, and unsatisfying. By doing so, you'll weaken the grip of bad habits and create space for positive change. Let's dive in. 1. Why do we have bad habits? Understanding the root cause. Before we can eliminate bad habits, we need to understand why they exist in the first place. At their core, bad habits are driven by the same principles as good habits: cues, cravings, responses, and rewards. The difference lies in the outcomes they produce. For example, consider the habit of scrolling through social media. The cue might be boredom or stress, the craving is the desire for distraction or validation, the response is opening the app, and the reward is the temporary dopamine hit you get from likes or entertainment. The problem isn't the habit itself, it's the long-term consequences. As Viktor Frankl, Holocaust survivor and author of Man's Search for Meaning, wisely said, "Between stimulus and response there is a space. In that space lies our power to choose our response." Breaking bad habits begins with recognizing this space and choosing differently. 2. Reversing Law 1. Make it invisible, reduce exposure to triggers. The first step to breaking a bad habit is making the cue invisible. If you don't see the trigger, you're less likely to act on it. This is especially important for habits tied to your environment, such as snacking or checking your phone. Here's how you can make bad habits invisible. Remove temptations. If you want to stop eating junk food, don't keep it in your house. Out of sight, out of mind. Change your environment. If you tend to procrastinate at your desk, try working in a library or coffee shop instead. Use digital tools. Turn off notifications for apps that distract you, or use apps like Freedom or Focus at will to block time-wasting websites. By reducing exposure to triggers, you decrease the likelihood of acting on bad habits. As James Clear explains, environment is the invisible hand that shapes human behavior. Design your surroundings to support your goals, not sabotage them. 3. Reversing Law 2. Make it unattractive, reframe the craving. The second step is making bad habits unattractive. Often, we engage in negative behaviors because we perceive them as rewarding. To reverse this, we need to reframe the way we think about these habits. One powerful technique is highlighting the downsides of the habit. For example, instead of thinking, "Scrolling through social media helps me relax," remind yourself, "This is wasting my time and increasing my stress." Instead of thinking, "Eating dessert makes me happy," remind yourself, "This will make me feel sluggish later." Another strategy is to associate bad habits with negative emotions. For instance, if you struggle with smoking, visualize the health risks every time you crave a cigarette. Studies show that pairing a habit with unpleasant imagery reduces its appeal. Finally, surround yourself with people who discourage bad habits. As Jim Rohn once said, "You are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with." If you want to quit a bad habit, seek out individuals who have already overcome it. Their influence will inspire you to do the same. 4. Reversing Law 3. Make it difficult, increase friction. The third step is making bad habits difficult to perform. The harder a behavior is, the less likely you are to do it. Here are some ways to increase friction. Add physical barriers. If you want to stop binge-watching TV, unplug your streaming device after each episode. Create delays. If you tend to impulse buy online, log out of shopping apps and delete saved payment information. Use accountability. Tell a friend or family member about your goal and ask them to hold you accountable. Knowing someone is watching can deter you from giving in to temptation. Remember, habits are like water, they flow in the path of least resistance. By adding obstacles, you redirect the flow away from bad habits. 5. Reversing Law 4. Make it unsatisfying, eliminate rewards. The final step is making bad habits unsatisfying. Since habits are reinforced by rewards, removing the satisfaction breaks the cycle. One effective way to do this is through punishment, or accountability. For example, if you miss a workout, donate $10 to a charity you dislike. If you overspend, share your bank statement with a trusted friend who will call you out. Another strategy is to track your bad habits and reflect on their impact. Keep a journal where you write down every time you engage in the habit and how it made you feel afterward. Over time, you'll notice patterns and realize how much these behaviors cost you. As Warren Buffett famously said, "The chains of habit are too light to be felt until they are too heavy to be broken." By making bad habits unsatisfying, you break those chains before they weigh you down. 6. A real-life example, the story of Oprah Winfrey. Let me share an inspiring story to illustrate the power of eliminating bad habits. Oprah Winfrey, one of the most influential women in the world, wasn't always the picture of success. Early in her career, she struggled with emotional eating and weight gain. Despite her talent and ambition, this habit threatened to derail her confidence and health. Determined to change, Oprah adopted a new mindset. She reframed her relationship with food, viewing it as fuel rather than comfort. She also surrounded herself with supportive friends and hired a personal trainer to hold her accountable. Most importantly, Oprah made her bad habit unsatisfying. Every time she craved junk food, she reminded herself of the negative impact it had on her body and career. She replaced the habit with healthier alternatives, like meditation and exercise, which provided longer-lasting satisfaction. Today, Oprah credits her success not just to her talents, but to her ability to break free from destructive patterns. As she once said, "The biggest adventure you can ever take is to live the life of your dreams." Eliminating bad habits allowed her to do just that. 7. Practical tips for eliminating bad habits. Now that you understand how to reverse the 4 laws of behavior change, here are some practical tips to apply them in your life. 1. Identify your triggers. Write down the cues that lead to your bad habits and find ways to avoid them. 2. Reframe your thoughts. Focus on the long-term consequences of bad habits to make them less appealing. 3. Add friction. Make bad habits harder to perform by introducing obstacles or delays. 4. Track your progress. Use a journal or app to monitor when and why you engage in bad habits. Awareness is the first step to change. Chapter 4: Maintaining Habits Long-Term, Building Systems That Last. By now you've learned how habits form, how to build good ones, and how to eliminate bad ones. But here's the truth: building habits is only half the battle. The real challenge lies in maintaining them over the long term. Why do so many people fail to sustain their habits? Often, it's because they focus on goals rather than systems. Goals are great for providing direction, but systems are what keep you moving forward when motivation fades. In this chapter, we'll explore strategies for maintaining habits long-term. You'll learn how to design an environment that supports your habits, track your progress effectively, and build resilience against setbacks. Let's get started. 1. The power of systems over goals. Before we dive into specific strategies, let's clarify the difference between goals and systems. A goal is the outcome you want to achieve: losing 20 pounds, writing a book, or running a marathon. A system, on the other hand, is the process you follow to achieve that goal: eating healthy meals, writing 500 words daily, or training consistently. Here's the key insight: goals are temporary, systems are permanent. When you focus solely on goals, you risk losing motivation once you achieve them. But when you focus on systems, you create sustainable habits that continue to serve you long after the goal is met. As James Clear explains in Atomic Habits, you do not rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your systems. To maintain habits, you need to prioritize the process over the outcome. For example, instead of setting a goal to read 50 books this year, focus on the system. Read 1 page every day. By sticking to the system, you'll naturally achieve the goal, and likely exceed it. 2. Designing an environment that supports your habits. One of the most effective ways to maintain habits is by designing an environment that makes them easy to stick to. Remember, habits are shaped by your surroundings. If your environment encourages positive behaviors, you're more likely to sustain them. Here are some strategies to optimize your environment. Make good habits visible. Place reminders where you can't miss them. For instance, if you want to drink more water, keep a large bottle on your desk. Remove friction for good habits. Simplify the process as much as possible. If you want to exercise in the morning, lay out your workout clothes the night before. Add friction for bad habits. make undesirable behaviors harder to perform. For example, if you tend to overspend online, delete saved payment information from shopping apps. Your environment acts as a silent partner in your journey. As Winston Churchill once said, "We shape our buildings, thereafter they shape us." Similarly, the spaces you inhabit shape your habits. 3. Tracking progress, the key to accountability. Another crucial factor in maintaining habits is tracking your progress. When you measure your actions, you gain clarity and accountability. This is why tools like habit trackers, journals, or apps are so powerful. Here's how to track your habits effectively. Use a simple system, don't overcomplicate things. A calendar, notebook, or app like Habitica works perfectly. Simply mark an X for each day you complete the habit. Celebrate small wins. Every time you check off a day, take a moment to acknowledge your effort. Positive reinforcement strengthens neural pathways. Reflect regularly. At the end of each week or month, review your progress. What worked well? What challenges did you face? Use these insights to refine your approach. Tracking your habits also helps you stay consistent. As Jerry Seinfeld famously advised, "Don't break the chain." Seeing a streak of consecutive days builds momentum and motivates you to keep going. 4. Building resilience against setbacks. No matter how strong your habits become, setbacks are inevitable. Life gets busy, unexpected challenges arise, and motivation wanes. The key is not to avoid setbacks but to prepare for them. Here's how to build resilience. Expect imperfection, accept that you won't be perfect. Missing one day doesn't mean failure, it means you're human. As James Clear reminds us, never miss twice. Get back on track as soon as possible. Focus on identity instead of thinking, "I failed." Remind yourself, "I'm someone who values consistency." Aligning your habits with your identity makes it easier to bounce back. Learn from mistakes. Analyze what caused the setback and adjust your strategy. Did you set unrealistic expectations? Did external factors disrupt your routine? Use these lessons to strengthen your system. Remember, setbacks are part of the process. As Thomas Edison famously said after thousands of failed experiments, "I have not failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work." Treat every setback as an opportunity to grow stronger. 5. Surround yourself with supportive people. The people around you play a significant role in shaping your habits. Surrounding yourself with supportive individuals can make all the difference in maintaining long-term change. Here's how to leverage social influence. Find accountability partners. Share your goals with a friend, family member, or mentor who will hold you accountable. Knowing someone is watching can deter you from giving up. Join communities. Whether it's a fitness group, a book club, or an online forum, being part of a community keeps you motivated and inspired. Learn from role models. Study the habits of people you admire. What systems do they use to stay consistent? How do they handle setbacks? As Jim Rohn wisely said, "You are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with." Choose your circle carefully, and let their energy fuel your growth. 6. A real-life example, the story of J.K. Rowling. Let me share an inspiring story to illustrate the importance of systems and resilience. J.K. Rowling, the author of the Harry Potter series, didn't achieve success overnight. Before becoming one of the world's best-selling authors, she faced countless rejections and personal struggles. As a single mother living on welfare, she wrote her first manuscript in cafes while her baby slept beside her. What kept her going wasn't just a dream of publishing a book, it was a system. She committed to writing every day, no matter how small the progress. Even when publishers rejected her manuscript multiple times, she refused to give up. Rowling's resilience paid off. Her story teaches us that success isn't about avoiding failure, it's about persisting despite it. As she once said, "It is impossible to live without failing at something, unless you live so cautiously that you might as well not have lived at all." By focusing on the process and staying consistent, Rowling built a legacy that continues to inspire millions. 7. Practical tips for maintaining habits long-term. Now that you understand the principles of sustaining habits, here are some actionable tips to apply in your life. 1. Focus on systems, not goals. Build processes that support your habits, regardless of outcomes. 2. Optimize your environment. Design spaces that make good habits easy and bad habits hard. 3. Track your progress. Use tools like habit trackers or journals to stay accountable. 4. Embrace setbacks. Treat failures as learning opportunities and get back on track quickly. 5. Surround yourself with positivity. Seek out supportive people and communities that align with your goals. Conclusion: your journey to small changes, big impact. We've explored the science of habits, learned how to build good ones, eliminate bad ones, and maintain them over the long term. Let's take a moment to recap the key lessons you've gained from this audiobook. Understanding habits is the foundation of change. Habits are automatic behaviors driven by cues, cravings, responses, and rewards. By understanding the habit loop, you can identify the triggers and rewards that shape your actions. Building good habits requires the 4 laws of behavior change: make it obvious, make it attractive, make it easy, and make it satisfying. These principles help you design habits that stick. Eliminating bad habits involves reversing the 4 laws: make it invisible, make it unattractive, make it difficult, and make it unsatisfying. By doing so, you weaken the pull of destructive behaviors. Maintaining habits long-term depends on systems, not goals. Focus on creating processes that support your habits, optimizing your environment, tracking your progress, and building resilience against setbacks. These lessons are not just theories. They're actionable strategies that you can apply to every area of your life. Remember, success is not about massive transformations. It's about small, consistent actions that compound over time. As Aristotle once said, "We are what we repeatedly do." Excellence, then, is not an act but a habit. Every choice you make today shapes who you become tomorrow. Now that you've gained this knowledge, I want to encourage you to take action. You have the tools, you just need to use them. Start small. Choose one habit you want to build or one bad habit you want to break. Commit to it today, even if it's just a tiny step. Here's the truth: motivation gets you started, but discipline keeps you going. There will be days when you don't feel like showing up, but remember why you started. Visualize the future version of yourself, the person you're becoming through these small, consistent efforts. Let me leave you with this inspiring quote from Mahatma Gandhi. "The future depends on what you do today. Every decision you make moves you closer to or further from your goals." Don't wait for the perfect moment, it doesn't exist. Start where you are, use what you have, and do what you can. You have the power to transform your life, one small change at a time. Believe in yourself, stay consistent, and trust the process. Before we conclude, I want to take a moment to thank you for joining me on this journey. Your decision to invest your time in this audiobook shows your commitment to growth and self-improvement. That's something to be proud of. If you found value in this content, I'd love for you to share it with others. Like, comment, and subscribe to Wisdom Audiobooks so you don't miss future releases. Together, let's create a community of lifelong learners dedicated to wisdom and personal development. Finally, I want to remind you that your journey doesn't end here. This audiobook is just the beginning. Take these lessons, apply them to your life, and watch as small changes lead to big impact. Thank you again for listening. I'm honored to be part of your growth journey, and I look forward to sharing more wisdom with you in the future. Until next time, remember, your wisdom journey starts here, and it never truly ends.